Everyone, very good morning. Shall we begin? Today is a sample number 2, same topic from the classroom. This is a division number 2. That is the next example. This is an example of the person Jody Mentz, who has 14 years of teaching experience, and she is a teacher librarian at Mount View School, Red Deer, and also teaches the grade 4 language arts. What is the topic? That is fairy and the folk tales. Subject is language arts or the art. Grade is 5. Number of students 27. Yeah, grade means class. And time is approximately 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, 2 months approx. What is the main objective? The student will become familiar with the variety of the fairy tales, be able to identify common elements, compare different versions, write additional tales with new variations, and also write the original tales. So stage number 1 is planning. That is for the first week. So this activity was cooperatively planned by the teacher librarian and the teachers. And teacher and the teacher librarian team also taught throughout the unit, and they were introduced to the fairy tales. What is fairy tales? What is the logic behind the fairy tales? Through PPT or the prior discussion of the prior knowledge and a new information on the historical background of the folk literature. So the teacher and the teacher librarian each read a pre-selected fairy tale and also discuss identified its element with the group of the students. So whatever the student take out, whatever their group, that was then switched, and the process was repeated to establish the common elements found in the fairy tales. And students were to select the several fairy folk tales and also drafts a rough bibliography and creates a booklet that creates or that provided a synopsis of the each tale and common elements found in the fairy tale. Whatever the planning phase, whatever the cooperative stage, whatever the planned out, that is done by the teacher librarian and the teachers. So stage number 1 is planning. This activity will be taught throughout the unit. Then stage number 2 is information retrieval. This is also for the 2 weeks. So teacher librarian also set aside the school fairy tale books, film strips, and videotapes, and also borrowed additional resources from other schools. Public library were also used by the students. Students were encouraged to find and read out the fairy or the folk tales. At the same time, they also worked in the groups and took turns reading, while at the other times they read individually and sometimes share their thoughts on the tale with the whole class. In the meantime, students also received the bonus points for outside reading, and they are evaluated on the rough list of the resources at this point. So this is the information retrieval. Planning is done, retrieval is done. The information processing. Students were guided through activities. For example, rewriting the tale with a different ending, writing the tale in a modern settings, using the fairy tale that they had chosen, working in a group of 3 to 4, students identify the common elements, then focused on begin work on a booklet containing a synopsis of each tale and the author, title, illustrator, and country of origin. And with this guidance or teacher library guidance, students studied 8 versions of Candela and also identified and compared the basic elements of folk tales. Then stage number 4 is information sharing. So once a week on a celebration day, students share that week experience through class discussion, and they were evaluated for the participation and the group work at this stage. For the information sharing case. Alright. 3 is information processing that takes 1 to 2 weeks, and students are guided through various activities, that is rewriting the materials, rewriting the tale with the different endings, writing the tales in a modern settings using the fairly tale that they had chosen, and working in a group of 3 to 4. Students identify the common elements in several folk tales, and then they begin work on a booklet containing a synopsis of each tale and the author, title, illustrator, and the country of origin. So with the teacher or the librarian guidance, students studied 8 versions of the Candela and also identified and compared the basic elements of folk tales. Then next is comments on using the research. So I find that the research available in the classroom are too limited and restrictive. That is not every person or every student must be go beyond the approach. No, but resources are available as too limited and restrictive, and the additional resources are necessary in non-fiction and the literature. Stage number 4 is information sharing. So once a week on a celebration day, students share that week experience through class discussion. Students were evaluated for the participation and the group work at this stage. And stage number 5, that is a class evaluation. So students provided feedback on the unit to the teachers and made written suggestions for improvement for the next year's class. So the celebrations will be done on the shared view through the week's experience, and they are evaluated for the participation and the group work. That unit will be provided to the teachers, that will be made written assignments, written suggestions for improvement for the next year class. So biggest surprise for the teacher and the student were probably the great number of the versions of particular that they use of fairy tales, and they are found a wealth of literature that many did not realize existed and did not previously know where to find in the library. Then sample number 3 is division 2 from the classroom now. So this is the Iron Vessel who has 13 years of experience. This is sample number 3. 6-year experience as a curriculum coordinator and is currently as assistant principal. She teaches social studies of 546, French 456, language arts and the physical education at Our Lady of the Victory Elementary Schools. Now note, what is a note over here? Because the student has no teacher librarian, resource room students were combined with the regular grade 6 social studies class so that a team teaching situation was established. Topic is create your own country. Subject is social studies. Grade is 6. Number of students is 28. Time 2.5 week. Objective to have students assimilate all the knowledge from the government unit in the creation of their country, and the level is introductory and the advanced with main emphasis on the advanced level, and the research stages are the all. So stage number 1 is planning. So students used the expressway series and the library to gain the research skills needed to do the project, and they also studied the democratic procedures during the unit, and that is known as the different levels of the government. And students met in pre-arranged groups to discuss the formation of their countries. Each group were given a set of the sequence that focused or which focused on the typical problems a country faces. And the problems included the natural disaster, racial and economic problems, and political unrest, and as well as the cultural concern. So before beginning the next stage, teachers gave the each group feedback on their plan, on their activity for creating their own country. Yeah, that means there should be a democratic procedures during the unit that will be occupied at the different levels of the government. Then stage 2 is information retrieval. That also takes 3 days. So group used library resources, encyclopedia, atlas and the books to gather the information on this country's problems. Teachers also checked the rough bibliographic from each group at the end of each library period. Then processing, that takes about 2 days. So yes, information retrieval may be gathered through the atlas books, so the country's problems to the library resources, and they also checked with a rough bibliographic from each group at the end of each library period. Then stage 3 is information processing, that makes a point from notes, from text, from graphs, from charts and the diagrams. And students then made inferences and assumptions and used creativity to create their own country profile. Profiles were checked by the teacher for the demographic, geography, resources, climates, problems and responses to the others. Whatsoever the problem that they carried out, whatsoever the data that they carried out. So that will be gathered for the climate, that will be gathered for the problems and the responses to the questions. That is the information processing. Then information sharing. So using the student produce maps, flags, logos, charts on laws and punishments, a list of the possible natural resources, that may be any natural resource, and a paragraph on developing and improving their country. Each group presented its country to the class and led the class in a discussion that will react to the group's method of governing its country, solving the country's problem. Teacher also evaluated the presentation of both the oral and the written work. That means they focus on both the written and the oral work that will be produced once in a year, once in a month, or on a regular basis, that is a weekly basis. Then at last there is an evaluation. So students provided input to the teachers on the most successful and the least successful method that will be gathered of the assignments, and the specific areas will be given, such as the time allotted, resources available, methods of the evaluation, and also the suggestions